There are 13 secrets about children under 3 that pediatricians know, early childhood experts know, but somehow parents are never told. But I'm about to spill all of them, because here's the thing, not knowing these secrets can make these years feel like you're in survival mode, but knowing them can turn these difficult years into some of the best ones. So let's get started with the big one. Your toddler literally cannot control their big feelings yet, and here's why. The part of your toddler's brain that controls emotions, the prefrontal cortex, isn't fully developed. In fact, it won't be fully developed until they're 25 years of age. But the part that triggers big feelings, the amygdala, that's been working since birth. It's like having a hypersensitive fire alarm with a faulty off switch. And here's what makes it even harder. When they get really upset, their brain goes into survival mode and that thinking part of the brain completely shuts down. It's like trying to have a conversation with someone who has their fingers in their ears. They literally cannot hear your logic or your explanations. This is why reasoning with them mid-tantrum never works. So here's what to do instead. Next time they have a tantrum, don't try to fix it or explain why they shouldn't be upset. Instead, get down to their eye level and say something like, "You're really upset, I get it." Your calm voice and presence helps provide the emotional regulation they can't yet do for themselves. You're literally lending them your regulated nervous system. And here's the key part most parents miss. Once your little one is calm and their thinking brain comes back online, that's when you can explain or help them understand what happened. Now, staying calm during a tantrum is one of the hardest parts of parenting, but it gets easier when you realize what's actually going on in those moments. When your little one loses it over something that seems ridiculous to you, like the wrong cup color, they're not trying to manipulate you or ruin your day. They're desperately trying to tell you, "Help me, I have no clue how to handle what I'm feeling right now." When you reframe tantrums this way, instead of thinking my kid's being defiant, you start to ask yourself, what skill are they missing or still needing to learn? And then you actually spend time teaching them that skill. So, for example, if your toddler hits their brother because he took their toy, instead of just saying, "We don't hit," you would say something like, "You're angry that Sam took your truck. It's okay to feel angry, but hitting hurts people." Then you would say, "Tell Sam, stop Sam, I'm playing with that." Then you would help Sam hand the truck back to your toddler. When you do this, you've actually given them the words to use instead of their hands, and the next time that they're angry, they'll have something else to try. But here's the reality. Even though they now have this new tool, you're going to need to teach it to them again and again and again. This is because your toddler's brain is like a sponge, but a really slow sponge that needs to absorb the same thing many, many times before it sticks. Think of it like this. You wouldn't expect them to remember how to tie their shoes after showing them once, right? It's the same with behaviour. They need tons of practice. So instead of getting frustrated when you're repeating yourself constantly, remember that each time you calmly say gentle hands, you're helping your child's brain learn. It's not that your toddler isn't listening, it's that they're still building that skill. Celebrate the tiny victories, like, wow, you're using gentle hands with the dog, because those little moments of success are signs that your repetition is actually working. Now here's how to make those repeated instructions more effective. Tell them what to do, not what not to do. Think about it. If someone told you don't take Highway 5 but didn't tell you which road to take, you'd be confused about how to get to where you're going. The same thing happens in your toddler's brain when you tell them what not to do. When you say don't run, your child's brain thinks, okay, but what should I do instead? Skip, crawl, dance? They literally don't know what the right choice is. But when you say walking feet inside, they have a clear picture of exactly what you want, and they're much more likely to actually do it. So the next time your toddler is doing something you don't want, don't tell them to stop. Instead, tell them what to do. So stop making a mess becomes put the toys in the basket. Stop yelling turns into use your inside voice. And don't hit becomes gentle hands. This approach of telling them what to do instead of what not to do is actually one of 8 common phrases I recommend parents rethink, as they just don't send the message we intend. If you want to know what those other 7 phrases are, just download my free guide, 8 parenting phrases to rethink and what to say instead, and you can get that by clicking the link in the description below. Now, even with the clearest instructions, there is one simple technique that will dramatically improve how well your toddler actually responds to you. Count to 10 before you repeat yourself. Now, here's why this changes everything. Your toddler needs time to hear your words, understand what those words mean, figure out how to do what you're asking, and then actually start moving their body to do it. Now, as adults, we do this instantly, but toddlers need way more time. Their brain is still building these process pathways. So the next time you give your little one an instruction, say it once clearly. Please put the blocks in the box. Then count to 10 in your head and just wait and watch. You'll be shocked at how often they actually do what you ask when you give them those extra seconds to process it. And when they do follow through, for example, your toddler finally puts those blocks in the box, you might naturally say, "You're so smart," or "You're perfect." But research shows that this kind of praise can actually backfire, and here's why. When you praise who they are, so "you're so smart," instead of what they did, kids start to believe that their abilities are fixed. They think, if I'm smart, things should be easy for me. So when they hit something challenging, they panic and they give up to protect that smart label. Here's what works better. Praise the specific effort or strategy they use. So you might say, "You listened and put every block in the box," or "You kept trying even when it was tricky," or "You figured out a way to make them all fit." This teaches them that success comes from effort, strategy, and persistence, things that they can control. It builds what psychologists call a growth mindset, the belief that abilities can be developed through hard work. And kids with this mindset actually seek out challenges because they know struggling means that they're learning. Now, you can master every technique I've shared so far, but there is one thing that will sabotage all your best parenting efforts, and that's hunger. Toddlers need to eat every 2 to 3 hours because their little bodies are growing machines. And that means they need to eat 5 times a day. So breakfast, morning tea, lunch, afternoon tea, and dinner. So when your little one's behavior suddenly falls apart, don't assume it's defiance. Instead, check the clock. If it's been more than 2 to 3 hours since they last ate, give them something to eat fast. You'll be shocked at how often food fixes the behavior problems. Now, even when your toddler is well fed, there's another thing that can still undermine your progress. When different people in your child's life have different rules and responses, it creates confusion and actually encourages more testing behavior. Think about it. If dad allows jumping on the couch but mum says absolutely not, or grandma gives in to whining while you ignore it, your toddler learns that rules are negotiable. And they'll keep testing to see what they can get away with depending on who's watching. Now, this inconsistency doesn't just create behavioral issues. It actually stresses your child out because they never know what to expect. But when everyone gets on the same page, something amazing happens. The testing stops. Your child feels secure knowing that the rules are the same everywhere, so they can relax and cooperate instead of constantly checking where today's boundaries are. So this week, sit down with everyone who cares for your child, your partner, babysitters, or grandparents, and talk to them about your main non-negotiables, like what happens when your little one hits, or how do you handle tantrums, or what the bedtime routine looks like. Write these down if it helps. Now, this doesn't mean that everyone has to parent exactly the same way. Grandma can still be the one who gives them extra cookies, but the big boundaries need to be consistent. When you do this, you'll notice that your toddler becomes so much calmer and more cooperative because they finally know what to expect no matter who's in charge. Now, consistency from people is crucial, but there's another type of predictability that's just as important for your toddler's sense of security, and that's routine. Picture waking up every morning with no clue about what's going to happen, when you'll eat, where you're going, or who's going to be there. You'd feel pretty stressed. That's your toddler's world without routine. But when they have consistent routines, so for example, they wake up, have breakfast, brush their teeth, get dressed, then play, they feel safe and in control. They know what comes next and they can relax instead of being on high alert all day. Now, you don't need to be super strict about timing. Just keep the order of things the same. And when you do need to change things up, Give them a heads up. So for example, you might say, tomorrow morning we're going to grandma's after breakfast instead of daycare. This helps their brain prepare for the change. The key is making their day predictable so they can relax instead of constantly wondering what happens now. Now, while you're creating this secure, predictable environment, your toddler is quietly absorbing lessons from the most important teacher in their life, which is you. Toddlers are observational learners. They learn by watching what you do. They notice how you respond to problems, talk to people, and react when you're upset. Then they copy all of it. Now, before you panic and think that you need to be the perfect parent 24/7, that's not the point. No one can be perfect, and trying to be will just stress you out. The point is just to be aware that they're watching and try to model the behavior you want to see from them when you can. So if you want them to be patient, show them patience. If you want them to be kind, let them see you being kind. And if you don't want them to yell when they're angry, try not to yell when you're angry. And when you do make a mistake, for example, accidentally yell, which might happen because we're human, use it as a teaching moment. Say something like, I'm sorry I yelled. I was feeling stressed that we were running late. I shouldn't have yelled, and next time I'll try to take some deep breaths to calm down. This simple act teaches them two important life skills: how to manage stress and how to repair relationships when they mess up. Now, speaking of teaching life skills, here's something that might go against every parenting instinct you have, but it's actually one of the most important things that you can do for your child's development, and that is let them struggle. I know it is physically painful to watch your child get frustrated trying to put on their shoes for the 10th time, especially when you're running late. But here's the thing. The struggle itself is where the real learning happens. When they finally get that shoe on after trying and trying, their brain learns, hey, I can do this. And this inner strength helps them feel confident about taking on new challenges as they get older. Now, the goal isn't to make them suffer. It's about giving them a moment to try before you step in. And if they ask for your help or give you that please help me look, absolutely step in, but guide them through it rather than doing it for them. So you might say, let's pull the tongue back, then put your toe in, then push your heel down. This way they learn how to do it and feel proud when they succeed. And as your little one experiences these successes, something awesome happens. They grow more confident and naturally start wanting more independence and control. And one way that they flex this newfound control is by wanting to make their own choices about everything, from what they wear to what they eat. But here's the problem. Too many choices actually overwhelms their developing brain. You'll notice that they get frustrated, keep changing their mind, or just have a complete tantrum. When this happens, they're not trying to be difficult. Their brain simply cannot process all of those options. So to avoid this, keep it simple. Only give them two choices. So instead of asking, what do you want to eat? Try, do you want a banana or an apple? And then let them point to their choice. This simple tweak gives them exactly what they're craving, the power to choose and feel in control without overwhelming their brain. And as a result, you'll notice fewer tantrums over decisions, and generally your day becomes a lot easier. That is, as long as you understand this next crucial point, and that is toddlers have this incredible ability to be completely present in whatever they're doing. When they're building blocks, that's their entire universe. They don't have a mental clock counting down to the next activity. They're just fully absorbed in right now. So when you suddenly announce it's time to go, you're essentially ripping them out of their happy place with zero warning. It's like someone changing the channel on your favorite show right at the most exciting part. Now, the solution isn't to avoid transitions. It's to help them prepare for what's coming by creating clear endings to activities. But here's the challenge. How do you create a clear ending to something your toddler never wants to stop doing? And how do you make them feel finished instead of frustrated? Well, there's actually a simple method that works every time, whether you're dealing with screen time meltdowns, playground battles, or bedtime wars. The secret is helping your child reach what feels like a natural conclusion, even when there isn't one. And in this video, I walk you through exactly how to do this for any situation. You'll get the specific words that work, the perfect timing, and I'll show you the mistake that actually makes transitions harder so you can avoid them completely. So if you're tired of every time to go turning into a battle, watch that video next, as it'll change everything.